Hi, and welcome to our second video annotation at teachmechess.com. Today we are going to begin a series of video annotations pertaining to the Colle system, also known as the Colle system. We're going to begin by looking at a game between Koltanowski and Catela. Play begins with pawn to d4, pawn to d5, knight to f3, and knight to f6. And as you can see, white has not yet shown black what he is going to play. That's one of the benefits of playing the Colle system. It has an ability to transpose into other openings such as the Queen's Gambit, the Tory attack, and the London system. Koltanowski decides to go with e3, however. Black responds with c5, and Koltanowski, wanting to have his king bishop on d3, plays pawn to c3, creating an escape square for the bishop after bishop d3 and black's pawn to c4. Also, c3 opens the queen to the queenside. Additionally, with c3 having been played, white is threatening pawn takes c5, now able to hold the pawn. Black protects c5 with e6, followed by bishop d3, knight bd7, knight bd2, bishop d6, and castle. Now, the main idea in the Colle is to attack down the e-file with pawn e4 and even pawn to e5. The e-push opens white's dark-squared bishop and undermines the center beginning the attack. Improperly, Catela plays b6. Better was to simply castle. Seizing the opportunity, white plays e4. Unable to allow the pawn to advance again, black captures with d takes e4, and white recaptures with the knight. Now here there are a few options for black that we'll explore. First, bishop to c7. This line allows white to gain a simple endgame advantage with knight takes f6. If queen captures, then bishop g5 wins the queen. If knight captures, then d takes c, b takes c, and bishop to e3, giving white the queenside majority against two isolated pawns. More interesting could be the pawn recapturing on f6. While this might appear solid, it presents white with many attacking possibilities after bishop to b5. If black castles, bishop to h6, rook to e8, and knight to e5 is winning for white after knight takes e5, preventing queen g4, which would lead to mate, bishop takes rook, queen takes bishop, and pawn takes knight. Now, reverting back, black's best response to knight takes e4 was bishop e7. After bishop e7, white should play knight takes f6, and if bishop recaptures, then bishop e4 followed by bishop f4 wins the exchange by trapping the rook. Thus, black would recapture with knight. Here, after d takes c, bishop takes c, and b4, the best white has is an endgame advantage with a strong queenside majority. However, black responds with knight takes knight e4, followed by bishop takes knight e4, with tempo forcing rook b8. And here white plays d takes c5. A very strong move where black is forced into one response. If b takes c, that would simply hang the bishop on d6, and if bishop takes c, that allows bishop f4, winning the rook. So black's one response is knight takes c5. Now when attacking, you want strong knight posts, diagonals, and files around your opponent's king. You want access to his king. You want to keep pressure on it. And generally, keeping a king in the center makes it easier to do these things. So if you analyze this position, you can say that the center is unsafe for black's king since white is reasonably developed with a post on d4 and an open d file as well as a half-open e file for rooks to tower down. Thus, white decides to keep the black king in jeopardy with bishop c6 check. Here it's obvious that this check cannot be blocked because the d6 bishop would simply hang to the queen. This leaves black with two choices: king f8 and king e7. King f8 is met by bishop f4, threatening to win the d6 bishop. Bishop f4, threatening to win the d6 bishop, which would then force king e7. So instead of wasting time and helping white develop, black simply plays king e7. Now that white has kept black's king in the center, he begins to seek other advantages that will aid his attack. Finishing development and connecting the rooks would be one solid idea, except the dark-squared bishop doesn't yet have a good home available. So instead, white plays for a space advantage, while also pushing back black's pieces with pawn to b4. This move forces either knight d7 or knight b7, with knight d7 being the better move, but Catela played knight b7. White then advances his knight, and black plays queen c7. Here, from d4, the knight's threatening possible sacrifices on e6, as well as going to c6 in the future with possible forks. Play continues with queen to h5, knight to b8, knight to d8, pawn to b5, pawn to f6, rook e1, and e5. This is met by an absolutely brilliant sacrifice of rook takes e5. Now here, if simply king f8, queen e1 checkmate. If pawn takes rook, then bishop g5 check, king f8, and queen e1 checkmate. So black's only response is to recapture the rook with the bishop. This is met by bishop a3, which must be blocked by the bishop, and rook e1 check. Here black blocks with the knight, and white plays knight f5 check. If the king retreats to f8, it's simply mate on e1. If black retreats to d8, play continues with bishop d6, and the queen is trapped. So at this point, Catela resigns. Now I hope you've enjoyed seeing this game of the Colle system. We're going to continue to do different video annotations and text annotations on this to try to present the system to you as a very good opening to have in your opening repertoire.